The changing landscape of the housing market in Las Vegas requires a real estate professional that understands how to get your offer accepted, willing to go above and beyond for service and accountability. Hi, my name is Dan French, and I'm a California native that transitioned to Las Vegas 19 years ago. I've been in the real estate and financing industry for over 13 years. Most real estate agents struggle with answering their phone, returning phone calls, and overall structure running a solid real estate business. Many of my competitors do not have the knowledge of how to write solid offers to legitimately have your offer looked at, and they work with a commission-first mentality. I will roll up my sleeves and work hard to find the right home for you regardless of the time it takes. Please call me directly 702-557-6176 to start the process of finding the right home for you. I'm available 7 days a week for all your real estate needs.
Dan's a fantastic man. He really is.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Dan French. This is Saturday. It's the French Workbench podcast here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I just want to let you guys know we have a great show for you guys today. We have a lot of information we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what happened with the Fed and how they raised the Fed's fund rate on Wednesday. We're going to talk to Mr. John Wickett. He's going to be the guy here talking about insulation, High Sierra insulation. We're also going to talk to Shannon, the difference between being an entrepreneur and being a consultant, right?
Consultant versus coaching.
Oh, consultant versus coaching. Go ahead. So you guys don't know who that is. That's Shannon right there. Shannon, what's going on today, girl?
Oh my God. Happy Saturday. No, everything's going on. But I'm going to say to you parents out there, I'm not old enough, and I think everybody feels this way, I'm assuming. I'm not old enough that my little one is turning 11 tomorrow.
Yeah, you're 11?
11.
You don't look like you would have an 11-year-old.
Right. Well, and I have a 12-year-old who's soon to be 13.
Yeah.
And this is unacceptable. I'm too young for this. No. So I'm just going to bind
Wait until
it.
you have a 25-year-old.
No, I don't want to talk about it. That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
And if you guys don't know who that is, that's Mr. John Wick himself, Mr. John Wickett. And he's the John Wick of insulation, as we tried to bring him on last time. What's going on today, John?
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you, John. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about on the show. You guys, if you don't know, this is the most real and behind-the-scenes information regarding financing, money talk, entrepreneurs going on here in Las Vegas. We're your source for real estate and financing. That's primarily what we talk about, but we do have entrepreneurs, business owners that come on the show. Please hit the like button. Also subscribe to the channel. If you guys have any questions, we're going to be live streaming throughout the process. Please make your comments and we'll answer your questions. We're going to really try to get some questions answered here today. And we're going to talk today about what's happening with the economy. We said we're going to talk about what's going on with the Fed and how the Fed raising the Fed's fund rate by 1/4 point. What's the real impact on the economy on that? I want to talk also about appraisals, right? Desktop appraisals and how appraisals are now going to be automated for single-family residence homes. That's going to be something that's going to be important moving forward. And we're also going to talk to John about his the insulation situation and materials and what he's going through with builders. He does a lot of insulation for builders and just homes in general. And then I'm going to go over here and talk to Shannon here about talking about the difference between consultant and coach for entrepreneur, right?
There it is. Good
there it
for
is.
You. He did
there
it, you
I
guys.
did it. I wanted to make
Happy
sure I got
Saturday.
it for you. So, right. So what's going on in your world? Let's first off, how you been this last week? Anything? I mean, you were here on Tuesday.
It's been crazy. Honestly, I don't know about you guys, but something is happening in our world where this past week, everybody's having something that's going on. And I was telling one of my friends who owns a local business. Yeah. And I said, is it just me or is your phone going off constantly with people going, oh, this is happening, what do I do? This is happening, what do I... It's no, I don't know, like sun, moon rising, God, universe, I don't care, whatever you believe in. What is happening? Is it just me? It's been crazy.
No, it's been crazy. I think the economy here in Vegas and just people in general, all markets are just, man,
it's insane.
They're coming out their seams, right?
I know. No,
everybody's just busy. It's different though. We as, you're an entrepreneur, right? I'm trying to obviously do real estate financing. we're all trying to earn business too, and that's what our goal is to hopefully earn business and represent people. And when you go out and you meet people, it's very hard because they're a little bit dicey on, should I use you? Should I not?
Yeah.
Is this economy really a good time to buy a home, or is this economy a good time to do consulting?
Yep.
Like what should I or shouldn't I do? And I think that everybody's just kind of like up in limbo right now.
And it's interesting to me because, when it comes to home buying or investing into your business or investing into yourself, ultimately we know it's a winning game in the long run, but it's that belief system of whether or not you can follow through and you can do it. And it feels like people are in limbo right now.
Yeah.
And they're letting everything else get in the way. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have that issue, but I'm just getting a lot of that feedback that people are having. They're holding themselves back in a lot of ways, and they're letting little shit, excuse my language.
That's
I like
okay.
to curse.
That's okay.
It
They
works.
say when you curse, you're actually more trustworthy. So that's why people
Then
should
I'm
use you.
very trustworthy.
So let's go over here and talk to our guest of honor, Mr. John Wickett, and High Sierra Insulation. Now, John, you're not only doing insulation, you're also an attorney. So let's talk a little bit about your background and what you do. So where are you from, John?
I grew up here in Vegas. My dad is from Maine. He was in the Air Force in Vietnam. Ended up out at Nellis at the end of the war and met my mom. And so I was born here, grew up in the older part of town around Eastern and Bonanza. Went to Rancho High School.
Yeah, but it wasn't old back then. That was not a thing.
No, the house that my mom bought was probably 10 years old when we got in there. She bought it for $28,000.
Stop it.
Yeah.
You've seen all the development. This town is completely different.
Absolutely, 100%. When I was growing up, the boundaries of town were basically Lamb, Sunset, Rainbow, and Cheyenne.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. So you grew up here. You've seen a lot of the changes that's gone on in Las Vegas. I think a lot of people want to know, like, what's really, why Las Vegas, right? Why is it so desirable for most people? What do you think people are coming here? Is it because the cost of living so cheap? The taxes are low? What are your thoughts?
I think the tax situation helps. The fact that we have no state income tax. I don't know if the average person moving to Las Vegas takes the time to consider all those different implications. At one point in time, we were fairly recession-proof. The Great Recession in 2007 is the first time that we were really hit hard.
Right.
So there have always been jobs here. Land here was cheap.
Yeah.
For most of my life growing up, and so that made us the fastest growing city in the country for quite a number of years.
So, John, what do you think the hardest thing is for you as far as when you look at the economy here? What was the hardest thing for you to adapt to when, like, getting into a house? Because, like, do you own a home?
Yeah, I've been in my house now for about 18 years.
Okay.
So we bought before the bubble.
Got you.
I paid $175,000 for my house. My mortgage is less than $900 a month.
Oh, good
so
for
I
you,
haven't had to
sir.
face the same challenges that new homeowners are now.
So you wouldn't ever want to leave, because that's the thing we have right now is people leaving their house. Where do they go? Right?
Yeah.
You sell your house. Where are you going to get a $900 mortgage in today's world?
Nowhere.
You're not going to get it anywhere, right?
You can't rent. You can't do anything. Not a $900 a month.
No, not anymore.
No. How much? I'm curious. You went through, so you purchased your house prior to the recession.
Mm-hmm.
We went through, and Vegas, we all know, if you were here, we got hit hard. We didn't know anybody that, like, we didn't have, you knew somebody got hit in one way or another, whether it be your home, losing a house, or your job, because so many people came in construction, and you had the background.
Yeah.
But you sat through that, and then you went through COVID, and everything has risen. Is there a massive difference in the equity that's in your home now, just sitting through that long-term investment?
My home now it was worth over $400. So
That's massive.
I've got a lot of equity.
That's
Think
important.
about that.
That's important to think about.
That's a game changer.
Yeah.
Right? I
Long
mean,
term.
if you wanted to, sell your house, I think that if people sold their house in today's market, though, would you rebuy in like Las Vegas, or would you go to another area that is cheaper? Because you can go into another area, maybe go towards the Midwest or something, probably buy a house close to cash You know, because
yeah.
you know, you look at the prices here; it's very comparable now, or not. I wouldn't say exactly comparable, but California is not. You know, we're not too far off from California prices as far as it's increased.
It's getting there, yeah. So you could go back east. I was looking at some houses in Texas actually just the other day. Somebody was showing me what the housing prices are like down there, and it's quite a bit cheaper.
Really?
But some of the adjacent states, the prices are just as, over elevated there as they are here. Like,
Yeah.
you know, my mother-in-law moved up to a little town close to Salt Lake City, and she bought a Toll Brothers track house that was about $800,000.
Yeah.
You know, and I can remember when that same house was a $300,000 house. You know.
Right.
It wasn't too many years ago that.
So let's talk about what's happening in today's world with the builders. Okay, so look,
Yeah.
everybody knows that when you go out, you know, some of the challenges that I'm dealing with or I see out there is that when you go and you make offers with builders, there's 100 people that's lined up to get into a new construction site. It's usually first come, first serve. You know, and sometimes if you're a real estate agent, you got to, you know, go down there and you got to wait at the door to be that first person because, yeah, it's 100 people on the list, but it's first come, first serve.
Right.
You have the other situation where people are looking at the cost of these homes are just astronomical. Lot premiums, $20,000 to $40,000. Anything above $500,000, you know, you're going to see a lot premium pretty substantial. So you're seeing a lot of challenges with these new homes. Now, a lot of people that I work with too, they're missing the closing date. It's not just one; it's every other one.
Right.
So take me through the process of, first off, insulation, and also the process of a new home, of how it's built.
So insulation is the last thing that goes in before drywall. Drywall is one of the major milestones in the construction of a house.
Right.
So we come in after the electrical and after the plumbing have passed because our material is going to cover that up. Mm-hmm. And right now, the biggest challenge that we're having is material availability, and that's impacting every phase of new home construction.
Wow.
So not only are we seeing shortages of material and longer than normal lead times, but there are price accelerations that are happening that are unprecedented. And now with the price of gas going to where it is, we're going to see that increase because all
Right.
these materials have to be shipped,
Right.
you know, from different parts of the country.
They have to fill that gap
to Las
Yeah.
Vegas, yeah.
financially. Right.
Yeah, and I think too, you look at a lot of people are looking at the fact that inflation's a big problem. You know, we don't have availability of goods and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really having an impact across the board on everything. It has inward pressure on builders to, you know, get things done in a timely fashion, which they look like they can't. They keep extending out their time to close a transaction. It used to be, hey, it's 6 months, 8 months. We're talking year plus.
And there's another factor, and that is the shortage of skilled labor. So during the recession, you essentially had an entire generation of skilled tradesmen age out of the trades with nobody being trained to come up behind them. And
Right.
so it's very difficult to find labor right
That's
now.
actually really interesting because we talk about that, but that's an interesting way of putting it because I come from a background. All the men in my life were in construction. That's why they came to Las Vegas because it was booming. Left California, you know, but it's right when they were at that age. When the recession hit, they just left.
Yeah.
They were done. So that's actually I've never heard that, but it makes sense. It makes sense that, you know, they've aged out. Now they don't have the workers, and you have to have those people to bring them in, train them, get them excited about it, and then they make it a lifelong career.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. You get a lot of these people that they're online, right? And they're like seeing these YouTube channels and, you know, they're doom and gloom and it's going to crash. And, you know, I don't know if it's going to crash. I do feel that we could hit a recession. You know, there's things out there that has some indicators that we may go into a slight pullback. I mean, look, you got the Fed pulling back on the as far as purchasing bonds, treasuries. They raised the Fed's fund rate. They're going to do that potentially another, 6 times, I believe, this year, 11 times over the next 2 years. So, I mean, this is indicators that we have a hot economy. And we're really going into a place where when you have low unemployment and you have a hot economy, how do you slow that thing down, right? And I think the Fed wants to control 2 things, is have maximum employment, and also they want to have the ability to control inflation and have it at that 2% rate.
Right.
I just don't see with this new home process of where things are at that we're going in the right direction at this time. I mean, do you feel like this is going to stop at any point where you're going to start to say, okay, builders are starting to get the materials, they're starting to get back on track, everything's going good? I mean, what do you think?
As you know, it's all supply and demand. And so the key factor is how many months worth of inventory do we have in housing that is available. And as construction is delayed, obviously that reduces the number of homes that are in inventory. I think that what is likely going to happen is that when the interest rates go up, that'll...
Well, they're going up. Yeah, they're going up. Yeah, they're going up right now. I mean, you look at where we're at now. We just pushed through. We blasted through 4%.
Sure.
We're above 4%, and you're like, well, what are you doing? What are we going to do to fix this, right? Well, the only thing that the Fed can really do is try to slow the economy down.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that when you have maximum, you have economic data that shows that you're really thriving. You have job unemployment is real low. Everybody seems like employment is becoming really strong here in the last few months. So what do you slow it down with? You slow it down by raising the rates, how they do that. And everybody's like, well,
the only thing they can do.
Yeah, it's the only thing they can really do. So I think there's a balancing act that if one thing's pulled too far one direction, this thing could go sideways.
Absolutely.
And so I think in the housing market itself, not just in new homes, but just overall, that has to slow down. Like you said, the supply has to come back on the market. What do you think is going to support the supply coming back? Could it just be rates?
Well, I know with insulation, one of the things that's happening is there are only 4 manufacturers of fiberglass insulation. One of them is going to open a new plant coming in this year. It'll be the first new plant since the early 80s.
Sure.
Wow. Okay.
And so that's going to dramatically impact the available of materials for me. Some of the other trades don't have that luxury. We don't see any let up in sight on lumber, steel. Right now is really hard to get a hold of, and that's not impacting housing so much as it is commercial. Mm-hmm. But I think we're being told by all the manufacturers that product availability is going to be an issue for at least another year. So
well, that's interesting though, because if you insulation, they can build this new plant. You guys have more availability. The problem is that back end prior to you guys, if they're not getting their materials
then it
on
doesn't
time,
help us.
then it doesn't help you anyways. You have it in your hands, but you can't utilize it. My dad's a plumber, and he was just talking
Everybody
about
knows
it.
a plumber. Brett's got a plumber. You got a plumber.
Yeah.
Everybody
I lived
knows
with one. My kid's dad actually is a plumber and pipe fitter, welder. So no, I come from a background of construction. My dad was talking about it just the other day, where his superintendent on this job is like, we have this deadline. He goes, listen, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't have the materials. We're waiting. I can't push them any quicker than I can push them. They're not here. Plus, on top of it, we have this machine over here that I asked for diesel gas yesterday,
Yep.
and it still hasn't shown up. And it's what time? He goes, so what would you like me to do? Because me and my crew are here, but we can't do anything with it. And so, but that puts everybody else after them, right? You put the plumbing in, and then you have to move forward. Insulation can't go in until it's done. So, until the other trades are able to get the materials on time like you guys are, then, but I would like...
Well, there's
a year-
contributing
a year's not too
factors
bad,
to it.
though.
I mean, you look at, we know that oil's gone up. Everything's gone up, right? I mean, I think they were saying the last time that we had a recession, a recession and a crash is completely different. I think everybody's out there like, we're going to crash. I mean, the data doesn't support that. Does it show that we're, we're a hot market? Absolutely. I mean, are we overinflated? Yes, I would say so. Yeah. I think all markets are robust, and I do think it needs to have somewhat of a correction, or as far as slowing down. But you look at the oil, it's over $140 a barrel, right? And you're looking at saying, well, the last time that happened, we did have a recession. Our economy did slow down. I think you look at a lot of these indicators and things that's going on, and it's like, I think everybody's worried because everything's just it's too high. It's gone too fast, and there just doesn't seem like there's any stop in sight. That's what I'm seeing with the builders and the new homes as well, is that with all these challenges and all these things with these, because look, you got skilled workers. Like you said, you have people that have a lot of these things. Like we get a lot of our stuff. We used to get it from China. Now it's being outsourced to Vietnam, other places, because the labor cost is cheaper, right, to go to Vietnam. You don't have all these readily made, items and things to offer. So I think everybody's going through these challenges, and I think builders are as well.
When we were in the housing bubble just before the recession, the company that I was working for had a fireplace division. And so one of the things that the products that we started to offer was these precast fireplace mantles. We had these girls that would come in and faux paint them so they looked like stone. I mean, they were nice. We went to one of the big home builders and offered these as an option, and we were offering them for between $1,500 and $2,000 a piece. And the builder said, I can't do that because if I sell this option, or if I buy this option at this price, I've got to sell it for $4,000. Okay, what's the problem? He said, well, if I add $4,000 to the price of my house, 95% of my customers will no longer qualify for their mortgages.
Oh.
So they were that dialed in terms of knowing what they could charge for these houses. So up until now, we've been talking about demand problems or supply problems that impact the market. But I think what's going to adjust it is going to be the demand issue, because at some point, these prices are going to accelerate to a level where people can no longer afford the houses.
Right.
And at that point, it's got to slow down, or they've got to adjust it.
Well, and that's already happening. We're seeing a bigger gap between people who are that higher income versus the median, right? So there's that huge gap, and it's insane, and it's wonderful in one regard, with the housing market. It's great for certain people, and then for others, it's really taking a lot of people out of the market.
Well, look, if you have a house to sell, if you got an asset like a house, so let's say you're a builder. Let's say you're somebody that actually is listing a home. I mean, I looked at the numbers today, and we're a little bit over 2,300 homes on the market.
It went up.
It went up, and so that's good, right? We see
Right.
the supply slowly. Now, I haven't seen it over 2,500 homes though in the market, probably for the last 6-7 months.
Sure.
Right? It's been fluctuating underneath. But the ones that have these homes, these assets, the sellers of the properties, the builders, they're the ones that control everything. And it's, if you don't come in, you've seen it. You don't come in on an existing home and resale homes. 20, 30,000 on some of these turnkey homes, you're above list. If you're not waiving the appraisal contingency, this thing is just almost becoming a normal thing here in Las Vegas, where if you don't write that into the contract, you're just not going to get your offer accepted. I think builders know that as well. They know, like, hey, you know what?
Absolutely,
They got all the leverage. The leverage is held with the builder itself.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think about? Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with your job and like what goes through the process of the installation. Is installation really a big difference? Like, is there really a difference between real good installation versus, let's say average installation? Because I think a lot of people, they go to new homes, they see all these things inside the, it's almost like they put together a room.
Right.
They talk about, like, here's your stucco, here's the energy saving appliances, this is what you can get with your warranty. Then it's like, here's your insulation. Are you going through this? Like, where do you guys, and why are you guys different than others?
So when you have an insulation problem in a house, it's very unlikely that the problem is being caused by the material itself. The materials are all good. The issue
are they all they're all pretty much the same, if you would say, or not the same, but pretty comparable?
They are in terms of the performance. You might install more or less of a particular thing to get to an R value, for example, which is the measurement of the thermal resistance. What you're going to have issues with is you're going to have issues with installation. So if you think of insulation is fibrous. If you take a piece of fiberglass, for example, air is able to move through that insulation, right? And so for the insulation to function properly, it's got to be in contact with an air barrier. So in the ceiling of your house, that air barrier is the drywall. So you want that insulation to be sitting flat on the drywall, in contact with the drywall. If the insulation is not, then what building sciences have shown, testing has shown, that if you take an R8 bat, for example, or an R30 bat.
What is that? What is that? Can you explain
a bat
that?
is a piece of fiberglass. Usually in your house, your trusses are 24 inches on center. So it's a piece of fiberglass that's 2 foot by 4 foot, and with an R30, it's 10 inches thick. And R30 used to be the code requirement here in Las Vegas. If that R30 bat is not directly in contact with the drywall, it's performing at an R8. So now you think about, if you've gone out to a construction site and you've watched insulation being installed in a track house, you've got a bunch of guys out there with sticks poking it up, right?
To get it connected to
so as they're poking it up into that space, it's getting hung up on cross bracing, it's getting hung up on wires that are running through the attic, and a whole lot of that material is not laying flat on the air barrier, and so it's not performing at the R value that it's supposed to.
Do.
So
Right.
what's when you look from the consumer perspective, they buy that house, they haven't installed it properly. What are the issues that they run across?
Well, the issue that you're going to run across is that you're going to have higher heating and cooling costs because your insulation isn't performing the way that it's supposed to perform.
Really?
Yeah.
So that does play a part in what's going on as far as your overall energy and how that performs in the house. And have you ever seen anything where a builder's maybe not done that very well, where they've had to go in and replace stuff like that or fix it?
I would say that if you go back to before maybe 2000, when they started enforcing the codes a little bit more stringently, 95% of the houses in the valley
Wow.
have those types
That's
of issues.
massive.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Now, if you have blown-in insulation, you're not going to have that problem because the blown-in insulation is going to
Sits.
settle down onto the drywall.
I see.
But around your mechanical platform in your attic, you'll have bats. Under your mechanical platform in your attic, you'll have bats. And so...
I'm curious, the blown in,
Mm-hmm.
do you guys really utilize that anymore? Is that
all
something
the time.
all the time?
Now, I don't do a lot of production housing, but for the insulators that do,
Yeah.
because the blown in is cheaper than the fiberglass bats, and so they'll try to blow as much of the attic as they can.
We had a kitchen fire growing up, and it's an older home, and there was blown in. And let me tell you, when the fire department shows up and they have to go through and check the roof, and it starts coming into your house, it's awful.
It's terrible, right?
It's terrible. It was terrible.
So you had a fire, huh? You had a fire in your house?
Yeah. And part of the issue was, so it hit in my dad was making tacos, poor guy. And it's an oil fire.
So a guy making tacos and then a fire happened.
Yeah.
Shocker, right?
Shocker, you guys. But it blew up and then went into the ceiling and into the roof. And so the fire department showed up and they're like, they actually got mad. Because my mom called 311 because the fire was out, and they said no, they have to send somebody out because it could be up in the attic, in the roof, in the ceiling. And so they came out and they busted out the ceiling, and it just started pouring out. But they said that was part of the problem, is that when you have that blown in, it's easy. You can get one little ember and it just starts spreading, and you don't even realize you're having a secondary fire after the primary.
I would tend to disagree.
Okay.
Oh, that's what happened.
So,
Talk about that.
Yeah, tell us.
Fiberglass is classified as a non-combustible material. It's really hard to burn fiberglass. Cellulose insulation, which is the other common form of blown-in, is made of ground-up newspapers. But they mix it in with borate and some other chemicals, and they make it fire retardant. And the cellulose guys used to do a demonstration where a guy would stand there with a handful of cellulose and hold a blowtorch
And nothing.
on it for quite a bit of time and nothing. So you'd really have to have a really sustained fire for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Even before cellulose insulation is going to combust.
We're gonna have you go teach the fire department. That's what we're
Okay.
gonna do. We're gonna do classes. He's gonna teach them. They did. They busted. They busted through that ceiling so quick, and it was everywhere. And they said it was because of that. They were concerned about little embers and it spreading.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but that's
Now
probably
the
why.
other
It's not a
issue
thing.
that you have with blown in is, remember that when you're blowing in an attic, the insulation is on top of the drywall, so that blown in is done after the drywall is in. So you've got an installer who's crawling into the attic and blowing that attic, which means that before the drywall, you have another insulation installer that's out there insulating the areas that are not going to be accessible to blow. So
Right.
you might have areas that are blocked off by ductwork. You might have areas that are blocked off by a shear wall that comes down in the attic, and so you've got a little something out in the front where you're not going to be able to reach it from inside the attic. So if the guy that's there first misses any of those areas because he doesn't properly assess what's going to be accessible for the blow guy,
Yeah.
then you've got pockets of your attic that have no insulation in them whatsoever.
So let's talk a little bit about the situation with what you think about this housing market, right? So you've seen a lot of changes. You've been in here. How long you been in Las Vegas?
I've been here my whole life.
Okay, you've been here your whole life. So was your family, did they migrate from somewhere? Where did they come from?
My dad came from Maine, and like I said, he was in the Air Force during the war and was stationed here after the war.
Nice.
My mom was born in Colorado and grew up, I think, most of her life in San Diego,
Okay.
and moved here when she was a teenager.
Okay. So you've seen the changes that's gone on here in Las Vegas, and you see a lot of the increase in homes. We saw this happen in 2004, 5, 6.
Sure.
Where prices were just going crazy. I think we're at the highest we've ever been here.
Yep.
But it's a different market now. What do you see different in this market? Do you see that it's a problem in this market to buy a house? Like, do you feel like
Healthy or unhealthy?
is it unhealthy, healthy? Like, what do you think?
You know, I guess it depends on what you mean by healthy. I think that we're in need of an adjustment. I think that we're, right now it's great and healthy if you're me, if you've got $300,000 of equity in your house. If you're a young person, there's no way that you can penetrate the market.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
You're stuck. I mean, you're somebody out there that's trying to put some nickels together to buy a house today. Good luck.
Yeah, you're not
Right?
going to.
You're not going to.
going to.
And you look at the situation where, okay, who's buying these homes? And data has shown, right? A lot of this stuff that we see coming out is these higher end homes and these higher wage earning households are just beating everybody out. And I think that's a huge problem because it's not giving opportunity for everybody to buy into a house. You look at people that are doing down payment assistance. I'm going to tell you, how are you going to compete with somebody putting 20, 40% down? Would you, like, you're a seller, let's say if you were selling your house, would you rather have somebody putting 20% down or going above list another 20 or 40, or would you want to help out a down payment assistance? Now, I have a soft heart. Right. I feel for people, right? If I'm a veteran, maybe I give a veteran, another opportunity if they're trying to make an offer on a house.
Sure.
But other than that, most people don't have those relationships. They don't have that camaraderie. So, I mean, it's tough, right? You look at these, starter, people coming into the average person buying a home right now is, I think, 33 years old, millennials. Right. They don't have a shot, or a lot of them don't have a shot. They're just trying to, what do I do?
Right. I'll tell you, if I was 23, 24, 25 and, just starting in my career, I probably wouldn't stay in Vegas.
Really? What would you do?
There is no opportunity for me to buy a house here,
So you feel like this is an unhealthy market then?
Yeah, but I would think that a lot of young people would be looking to exit this market and go places where they can afford to buy.
Do you feel like there's going to be a crash? Everybody talks about a home crash, right? The economy is going to just crash. Everything's going to stop. Prices are going to go down. I don't see the same data. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I just don't feel it. I think there's a lot of doom and gloom. People on the YouTube channels. Yeah. Oh, this is another sign. It's going to happen. What do you think?
I think there'll be a downward adjustment, but not at the level of a crash.
No, it's a recession probably, right? The economy, they don't always go from 0 to 100. It has to slow down.
Right.
You got to start to kind of retract a little bit. We're at that point. You're seeing all these markets starting to really peak out. Well, it's natural for it to say, okay, we need to slow down. Plus, if the Fed's going to come in and raise the Fed's fund rate, which raises the short-term bond, right?
Yeah.
Which raises, you got like maybe car loans, student loans, credit cards. The typical interest you would get on that is now higher.
Yep.
So that's going to slow down. You look at the cost of oil going up. What does that do, right? It's going to slow people down from actually traveling a little bit.
It's going to affect
right?
everything.
It's affecting everything. So is it natural? I would have to say so. Now, there could be a recession coming in the near future? I think so. I think we have to regress. I don't feel like it's going to be a crash or a collapse where I think a lot of people want that. Everybody wants to do it because they want to maybe take advantage of the market, right? And I get it. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen.
I don't think so. But I think a recession is
it's
definitely in the cards. There are a lot of economists think we're already in one.
How long do you think until we see, just from your personal perspective and as a business owner, how long do you think, what's that timeline look like when we're going to start seeing that, in your opinion, that decline?
I think it depends on how dramatic the inflation becomes.
Yeah, it's getting outrageous. It's a little dramatic right now.
It's on another level. It's on another level, man.
Stupid.
I mean, look, I think it's the highest we've had seen in the last 10 years or maybe longer.
Right. Yeah,
at least the last decade. I know that for sure. So I don't see how. I mean, it could keep going up, but we pushed through 4%.
We've got the normal inflation. We haven't even really seen the impact of the oil prices on inflation yet.
Right.
That's right around the corner.
It's happened so quickly.
But yeah.
Well, they also have people that say that these the oil prices, because all these things do contribute to home builders and getting materials here and the cost it takes. Because we had somebody on last week, great guy, love him. He's from Lennar, said that what. We're passing the cost to the consumer.
Absolutely.
Right? We're not going to take the loss, and we're not going to overbuild. Well, we figured this out.
Within that, too, I always think, okay, and then what's the other impact for the businesses, the smaller ones, that aren't the Lennars, that aren't the big corporations? It has a huge impact on their business, and a lot of them are going to fall out. They're going to fall. And then you have an even bigger issue with supply and demand and being able to get them to people, because now, well, you have less businesses that are able to offer it because they couldn't beat out those prices. They can't afford it.
Yeah. And, typically another thing that really hits the smaller builder that we haven't talked about is construction financing costs. Mm-hmm. So you have these direct impacts that are coming in the form of labor and material shortages, but as you lengthen the time that it takes to construct a house, you're also increasing the construction finance costs. And that's a cost that they're going to have to pass along.
Yeah,
to
I
the
mean,
buyer.
you look at the builder, they're just the middle person. They're out hiring subcontractors. They're manipulating and pulling all the strings.
Yeah.
And they're just the name, but everybody else is doing all the work. You got subcontractors doing the framing and all this other things. You hire contractors and consultants and people like that, right? So, I mean, people like you, right? You get hired as a subcontractor to go in and put the insulation, right?
And then, what hits these subcontractors is, as you mentioned, we do that. And so another thing that happens is we carry the costs. We front the money, essentially, to build that house because we go out and buy the material. We pay our guys, in real time.
Really? So the builder doesn't give you...
And then we've got to wait to get paid. And if we're getting paid late, which often happens. Now, the big production residential builders, they pay... pretty much on time, pretty regularly. But in most cases with construction, you've got a 30-day net contract. But most contracts have a pay when paid clause, which means that if the builder hasn't been paid by the owner, he doesn't have to pay you until he gets paid.
Stop it.
So
how
sometimes
long?
you're sitting for a long time. My business is primarily commercial construction, and I'm routinely paid 60 to 90 days out and sometimes longer. And so that makes me the bank. For the owner who's building the construction project.
Absolutely.
So as prices go up and these subcontractors, especially the little guys, are having to be the bank for larger and larger sums of money, then it becomes a stress on whether or not you can even stay in business.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
you have to have quite a few months of reserves for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your volume impacts that. In the during COVID-19, a lot of us took a dip in terms of our volume.
Yeah, of course.
So maybe you were doing $200,000 a month in revenue and you dropped all the way down to 50 or 60 or 70,
That's
right?
a huge drop.
So now you ramp back up to 200,000 over a period of a few months. But during that ramp up, you're financing your growth with revenue that you earned when you were small.
Yeah.
And so there's always, a demand for cash. There's a cash crunch that you have to face. And as a small business owner, that's just one of the challenges that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to know like what Vegas is about for each individual, right? We bring in a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that are, in Vegas. They have their things that they like to do, their hobbies. What is some of the things you really like about Las Vegas? Why do you think it separates itself from other cities? Because it is desirable. I mean, as much as people don't know, it isn't a desirable place to be.
Other than the summers, I think we've got great weather here year-round. A couple of years we've skipped winter. It feels like it's been real mild weather most of the year. That attracts people, I think, particularly people with illnesses and things like that, where they need that mild weather in order to be comfortable. We've like I said earlier, historically we've had a strong economy. There are plenty of jobs here. The tax situation is good.
It just seems like Vegas just doesn't miss a beat. I mean, look, we shut down.
Yeah.
I traveled the streets of Vegas when it was shut down. It was eerie.
It was insane.
It was like, man, I can't believe this is the city that I've been around for like the last 20 years. Like it's just, but you go through and it's like, it just recovered like that.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, everybody wants, and Vegas was one of the places that opened up after. So I think it just kind of really got a head start. And it just seems like there's jobs everywhere out here.
The pandemic is the only time in my life when I've driven down the strip and it wasn't packed with people.
It's weird, huh? It was weird. But you know what, though? I think outside of that, I mean, yeah, we could talk about taxes. We can talk about weather. And I agreed. We're going to agree to disagree, sir. I love the 115.
Yeah.
It makes me happy.
Oh, I can do it. But you know what? There's that first couple weeks. And then you just don't go outside. It's like being on another planet.
You got that ramp up.
Yes.
I love it.
And then if you're out there, you don't have any air conditioning, good luck. I don't think you're going to make it to your destination.
This is what I tell people. Listen, when it's 115 out, just go in the shade and you're happy. You're good because we don't have humidity. It's wonderful. You guys, stop it. 115
When
is
my
good.
wife and I got married, we were 23. We had this little truck with no AC, and
That's death.
You drive anywhere and you're glistening by the time you get there.
That's a really nice way of putting it. No, I would be red-faced, my Irish self over here. I'd be beet red, sweating my ass off. I'd be happy, but I wouldn't look great. It's not a thing. But I love the outdoor part of Vegas, and I think that's what people don't understand is there's so much more to Vegas than just the Strip, the job market. You're not paying a state income tax. That's all wonderful, but there's also things to do. I mean, you can go to Red Rock, depending on where you live, 20 minutes. You go to Mount Charleston, you're up in the mountains. You can go to the lake. You can go to the beach in 5 hours on a drive. There's so much available for Las Vegas in terms of hobbies and getting outdoors.
Yeah, but usually it's either you enjoy it or you don't like it.
Yeah.
And it's weird. There's
Love
never
or
like,
hate.
it's weird. A lot of people will move here and they will just leave. They don't feel like it, maybe or they leave during the times of being the summer, snowbirds, whatever. I don't know. Vegas just to me though, it's always felt like I've always had this aura that I'm missing out on something, especially when I was a kid. Like I would come down here and we'd visit and I'd hang out with my family and my uncle. And man, I would be like maybe in my, late teens, early 20s, not quite 21, I was 20, and I'd be looking at the Strip and I'd be like, man, I just want to be a part of it. There's a vibe and electricity that goes on in this city, and it's for some people and it's maybe not for some people. Do you enjoy going down to the Strip? Is that something you do? I mean, what do you do as far as fun here in Las Vegas?
We'll occasionally go down to the Strip for a concert. Every now and again we'll go down there for to go to a restaurant, but I've never been a gambler. Growing up here, you see slot machines. Growing up, there's slot machines in the supermarket, slot machines in 7-Eleven, everywhere you go. So that's something that's just been so commonplace to me my whole life that it's never been something that has
That's probably why you made it, man. A lot of people, when they go and they gamble, I've seen people, man, where I've done deals with loans and everything, transactions. They go out and they're somebody that does, like, say they're a tip employer. Let's say they get their paycheck. They work for a casino.
Yep.
That paycheck's gone the next morning.
Yeah.
And then they're struggling for the next 2 weeks to find out where they're going to get that money from. And then they're, hey, can borrow? Can I do this? And it's like, hey, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's a true problem. People with gambling.
Most of the people that stay here long term they don't utilize that. It's once in a while. I'm same here. I don't go on the Strip except for we're going to a hockey game, which is a new thing, right? Or there's a restaurant we want to go to, but I'm not going down there and gambling. Unless that's your career.
There used to be a saying in construction that it was paid on Friday, broke on Monday.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I want to show something here real quick. So this is right here. This is our guy here, High Sierra Insulation, and I'm just going to throw this out just so everybody kind of gets an idea about where his properties, or not his property, but his business is at. So it's right here, coming out here to Las Vegas. Let's kind of zoom out here for a little bit. So you're up north towards the Buffalo, you said Flamingo area, right?
Yeah, Buffalo and
Flamingo.
Peace Way is the intersection, but Peace is it's right between Flamingo and Tropicana.
Gotcha. All right, we're going to move over to, we got to keep moving on the show. And I want to say, thank you so much for coming on because, a lot of us want to know a little bit about the increment or the small parts, right, of what's going on with new homes. Everybody just sees the final product, but they don't see the framing and what's involved or the insulation and what's involved. And what I'm trying to do with this show is really, it's not just in housing, but just on things, really get behind the scenes about what people go through and what businesses go through and how it all kind of works.
Sure.
So I do appreciate you coming on. We're going to talk a little bit more here. I'm going to talk to Shannon. So I want to talk with Shannon. Let's talk with Shannon about what she has to talk about between consulting
and coaching.
And you took it out of my, I got it.
We just finished each other's sentences.
Yes. And so you did great. So let's talk about that with you. Like, you had something, an article that came out recently. You wanted to bring this up, right?
So I actually ran across an article because people and I think in this day and age, especially with social media, you see coaching everywhere, right? And some people, they're coaches, but they're really not true coaches. They're actually consultants, and they don't understand.
Define what a coach is. Like, why would I need a coach?
Well, we're going to talk about that. So this article came out in Forbes, came out this year. And what they did is they took, and I have it in front of me, that's why I'm looking down. So they took 13 members of the Forbes Coaches Council to share the key differences between coaching and consulting. And one of them was instruction versus guidance. Okay. So you're learning to ride a bicycle. A consultant is going to tell you how to ride that bicycle, what exactly to do, right?
Okay.
But a coach is going to sit down, get on the bike, show you, and then allow you the process and walk beside you while you're doing it. So it's very different. Like when you look at, there's another one in here that I wanted to, so exploring versus providing. So a coach is going to sit down and seek the answer from you because you already have the answer. So say it's personal development or a business and you want to create a vision. They're not going to tell you how to do it. They're going to seek it from you. A consultant is going to look at all of the key information and then help you build and strategize what that vision is. And it's really interesting because, you can't be an expert in all fields, right? And so from a coach perspective, and have you seen Instagram?
Well, I look at it like this.
Have you seen all the coaches?
I see all of them, right? And
There's a lot of
my
them.
thing is this: you're a connector,
Right.
but you're also somebody that has to identify an issue. Where's the bleeding at? How do I fix the bleeding?
Right.
Right.
And
Explain that.
The interesting part with me that is different is I do have a coaching background because I owned a health and wellness business. I had a medical weight loss practice, and then I built an online health and wellness business. And within that, and I think any good individual consultant or individual coaching is different, but a consultant, when you're dealing with entrepreneurs, people who are independent, there does have to be this point where there is some coaching involved. Because if you don't develop the person, if you're a consultant, they come in and they're coming into somebody who's singular, right? It's different. You go into John's business, he's established, he knows what he's doing, and hey, here's the bleeding, or here's what I want to create moving forward. A consultant should be specific to his industry and know exactly how to provide the next steps, right? Totally different. You take somebody, and these are more of the people that I deal with and that I support, are people that are building online businesses, right? Or starting a health and wellness business, or say they're a local dentist, right? And you want to build a platform, but we have to look at not just, okay, where's the bleeding and then how do we strategize that? But also, this is where the coaching comes in, and this is just a natural part of me, is okay, but we also have to look at how do you find these answers for yourself moving forward? Rather than me tell you, I'm going to seek it from you. So that's the difference. A consultant is going to tell you what to do versus a coach is going to, you have the answer, they're going to help you find it. But when you go online, mass majority of the time, when people hire a quote unquote coach, they're not coaching you. You get on the phone and they tell you what to do. They ask you a question, you have a problem, and they tell you, oh, well, you need to do X, Y, and Z. No, a coach is supposed to help you find the answer for yourself.
Well, I think there's an accountability situation here too. I mean, you got to look at it and say, okay, well, if I'm going to go and I'm going to say, let's working out, okay?
Right.
If I got to go work out, are you going to have results where you're going to sit on the screen and you're going to do one of those, beach body things on TV and hold yourself accountable? Or are you going to actually show up at the gym and they're going to take you through the process? You're probably going to get better results if you show up at the gym and have somebody. Part of coaching is accountability,
right?
And that's what you're saying. A part of it's accountability.
It's accountability, and it's finding it within yourself. And if you think about it, actually, that's a good example. When you look at a personal trainer, a good personal trainer is a consultant and a coach,
right?
Because they're going to take you into the gym and they're going to tell you exactly how to do it. So this exercise, this is how you do it. This is form. And this is like the rep range or whatever that is. They're going to consult. They're going to teach you exactly how to do it. But a good personal trainer is going to be a consultant and a coach, because on the back end, they also have to seek that from you. What's your reason for doing this? What are the gaps? And why are you doing it without telling you? You have to seek that, but they have to ask the right questions and be able to guide you in the process and help develop you along the way. So they're supposed to be both. A PT is a perfect example. I'm like a PT in what I do.
Yeah.
I have to have both in order to be successful.
So like you look at the coach and they're writing out, okay, well, you got to have this nutritional, this is what you got to eat every day. You got to show up at the gym every day.
Yep.
These are things that people don't see. And then it comes down to, I think, just in my opinion, is you can't outsmart the room or be smarter than the coach. And I think a lot of people, it's hard. You got to be coachable, right?
Right.
You got to be able to.
I love that word.
Right. You have to be coachable because
Right.
if you're not coachable, then why are you even seeking this
Then
information?
why are you doing it?
Right.
Well, and it's even for me, there's this point where it's in the original when I do a consult, that's one of my questions. What's your purpose? Why are you doing this? Why are you seeking it? Because I have to ensure that in order for it to be successful, they have skin in the game and that they're serious about it. I mean, when you talk about people like New Year's resolutions, right? We're supposed, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's New Year, new me, but they're not serious about it. That's not the point. And
Yeah, but it
us
should
as-
always be you, right?
It should always be you.
and if you can't be that person, and look, maybe it's something that you're looking at going, hey, I want to be something more than what I am because this is what would fulfill me.
Right.
But if you're struggling to get there, it shouldn't be like a New Year's resolution. It should be, I just need to change my pattern and my characteristics of what I do on a daily basis.
And you gotta
Habits,
want it.
right?
You gotta want it. You have to want it. There has to be a burning, fiery reason that you want to do it. But that's the thing that separates somebody who, when you talk about successful people, they're willing to develop themselves. They're willing to have consult. Like John, I would assume that at some point in your career and building your business, that there are people that have either done consulting work or you've had a mentor, you've had people you've asked questions to that have supported and grown you along the way. And you could have been given that, but if you weren't open to it, then it just washes off. It's a waste, right? But you stay stuck because you want to be the smartest one in the room. But we're not. None of us are.
Well, I think you get to a point though. It's like, okay, I know, I'm an expert of my craft, right? And I know a lot more than the average. I know a lot more than most in this specific field. It might take you humbleness to kind of say, look, to get to that next level, there is some things I can still fine tune, right? I can be polished a little bit on getting to that next situation or that next business opportunity. And that might be something that, meeting somebody like you would create that avenue, create that path for that person, right?
Right, exactly. But you, oh gosh, I lost it because I was listening to what you were saying. But if you're not growing, you're dying. I tell my kids that. If you're not growing, you're dying. Because that is that's just a basic human part. That's why we're here. We're supposed to grow and develop. We're never there. We're never going to be there. Even if you have a $1 billion business and you're crushing it, that doesn't mean that you're successful in your relationships. That doesn't mean that you're successful in parenthood or whatever that, of course, there's always going to be room for growth. And actually recently I had a group that I was working with, and the main issue that I ran across was the fact that the person that was leading it was not fully coachable. They weren't willing. It was, I see the gap, but I also still want to wear my ego and I want to be right. And I want to be top dog at the table. And so it just falls flat. Like they'll implement it for a little bit, but ultimately they don't want to take direction. And those are the people, if you don't want to take direction, I want nothing to do with it. Whether you're a consultant, a coach, or you play that line between the two, it doesn't make sense. That business, by the way, that same business started to move up and then it stayed. It's stuck. It's not changing.
I think people have to seek you out for this stuff, though. You can't, you can promote it, but you got to want it. You got to seek it. Now, let's go back and talk about your article. You said the talking difference, and what's the biggest thing between consulting and coaching, you said, right? So let's talk about that.
There's quite a few, but like I said, the main difference is a consultant is going to give you exact direction. Okay, here's the gap, and here's exactly, they're going to strategize. This is exactly what you do. They're going to tell you what to do. A coach is going to help you pull the information from yourself and help you. And it really, honestly, they're giving you the steps and tools to find answers on your own moving forward.
Is there anything that you can go back and say, I remember that part of it where you can say there's a story or something that's been down that road where you're like, oh yeah, I get what that article is telling me. I get it because it's a complete difference of what the mindset is. There's something that's happened that you've known about or not something recently?
What do you mean?
Do you have a story that people can relate to? I
have lots of stories.
Tell me a story.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'll go back to my health and wellness days. Okay, so this is a coaching side. I have a woman that, and the only reason I'm bringing it up because I was talking about it the other day. She came to me. She was like 110 pounds overweight, and she wanted to lose the weight, obviously, but also keep it off. I don't want to do this anymore. So there were two sides with her. Number one, I started with coaching. It was, okay, so what got you here? Where's your gap? And it was, you tell me. I'm not telling her anything. I'm not going to tell her, well, your gap is that you're overeating and you're eating really unhealthy foods. And no. Let's talk about it, because there's something underneath that we have to uncover how this happened. And you're the only one that can answer that. So there was the coaching side, because I had, in order for me to ensure that there was a long-term result with her, and this is the same in business, in order for me to create a long-term result, I have to know what's happening underneath and why you're not there yet. Why are you not there? What's holding you back? But you're the only one that can answer that, so we can uncover those details.
Sure.
And then once we solidified and did the coaching portion, which of course, goes along the process, the main coaching portion, then it was, okay, now I'm going to consult. Here's exactly what we're going to do. Now that I know what the emotional issues are, now let's talk about the practicalities, the strategic details of what's happening, and then what we're going to do moving forward. And to this day, I think it was, I want to say 6-7 years ago, she hit her goal weight, and to this day, she still kept it off. Because I took the coaching portion, and then from there gave her the strategic, these are your things. I mean, down to going to the grocery store and taking her down the aisles and teaching her how to read labels.
So if I'm a business person out there, right, I'm looking around going, okay, I got Shannon here.
Yeah.
Take me through the process of how a typical situation happens where you establish a relationship where somebody's looking for coaching.
For coaching or consulting or both, or just what Shannon Miller does?
Just what Shannon Miller does. Consulting.
So typically it is somebody who, like you said, reaches out to me. You can put all the marketing out there that you want. And I just, even yesterday I had somebody that reached out and I was like, you're not legit. And I do.
Yeah, but how do you know that right away? Like,
I just know.
How? I mean, what if I came to
online?
You just know.
Listen, you want me to talk about the female side of it?
Yes. Let me see what happens. Is there a cat fight going on?
No. It's usually men. It's usually men.
Men are going after you.
Yeah, they're trying to get a consult, and they're not legit. And so
But does it start off with, hey, if I get something, is it like they're hitting on you or something?
Yeah, I'm interested in what you're doing, this and that, and then I go and I always research everybody before, just so you know. If you reach out to me, I'm going to research the shit out of you. But I research them to see, are they legit? Do they even have a business? Or is it clear that they're trying to build something? What's their background? And so I do back end research to make sure that, number one, they're legitimate, and number two, it's something that I can actually support with. If you come to me and you have $1 billion business, I am not the lady for you, because I believe that a coach and consultant should at least have created what you want to create in the future. If you came to me, even in my health, right? John's over here shaking his head, right? If you haven't created that, then you shouldn't be coaching or consulting on it. In my health and wellness. Like,
so typically you do the background. You do the background check.
I do the background.
Okay, and then somebody, what do? They reach out, and then you reach back to them by email, by phone, or what? Like, how does that work?
Because obviously I'm on several platforms. So sometimes they're referred through somebody. They have my phone number, so we have a phone conversation, do Zoom, we'll meet up. But it depends on the platform they come through. So we all know.
But ultimately, you guys end up meeting up, and then you guys discuss things, and sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't, right?
Right, and that's true. I mean, you have people that come in from in the mortgage industry,
everything, real estate, lending, consulting.
They're just not the right fit.
I'm going to say most people in real estate that seek you out, you're going to probably work with people that want your knowledge, but then they either move on or they're just not ready. And you're not trying to convince them. Like, if you're saying, hey, is this property available? Sure, it's available. Yeah, great.
Right.
But you're not going to go make an offer. I mean, they make an offer. Some people it's just, you're ready.
Or you're not.
Or you're not ready.
Well, and that's what the consult for me is playing different parts. It's to uncover, what exactly are you seeking? What's your background? What industry are they in? Do they have a team? Do they not have a team? What is it going to take for me? I mean, one of the last consults that I did, it turned out they don't need for me to go in and to work with them on a monthly basis for 6 months or whatever that is. It's really like, no, we just actually need to come together and do a group training with your team. We need to do a group training. We need to do coaching, the breakdown process, and then once and this is what I do in my business, a lot of coaching up front so we can uncover everything, and then once we've uncovered it, then we can strategize what they truly want, then strategize, here are the steps, here's how we implement, and here's the next chapter in your business, marketing, branding, all of that stuff. So it's me coaching, and then so we can uncover, and then we go into, but that original consult is really important, because you also have to know, do I resonate with you? Do I resonate with you? And do you resonate with me? Because it's a tight bond. I mean, I get, that's why I said, what's going on in the universe? Because I have so many people that I've worked with that over the past week, they call me about life. I'm getting phone calls.
Well,
about life
it turns
and business.
emotional because
Yes.
I'm not saying on a personal level. I'm just saying
it is
there's a
personal.
trust level. Real estate, there's a trust level.
Yep.
Right. We always want to earn business, but people want to. We always say, "Oh, I'd love to earn your business." Well, we have to know, like, and trust you, right?
No, like, trust.
That's the starting point.
And me, I'm working with people who own businesses. For me, my business is personal. It's embedded in me. It's a part of my life. I think about it all the time. Anytime I'm doing anything, I think every time it's connected to my children. It's connected to my friends and my family. My business is a part of me. And so it does get really personal, and that's where the coaching part comes in, because honestly, if you don't have an emotional tie somewhat to your business, if there's not a why in your business, it's a freaking fiery passion,
Yeah.
it's probably not going to work.
Let's go over. We got a question here I want to ask. Verstar has a perfect question here. What's the difference between coaching and mentoring from a perspective? So mentoring, is there really a difference? I mean, that's a good question, and we have to answer. I want to answer that question for Ver.
So mentoring. So, okay, here's what I would say. Because mentoring essentially is, and I know I'm looking at this question, mentoring is pretty similar to coaching, but the difference in my mind is a mentor is somebody, I meet John, and he's done X, Y, and Z that I want to achieve, and we're friends or we're close, and he's willing to share the information and support me. And it's choice. It's a relationship. It's choice. I think that's the big difference. I've had a lot of mentors in my life. Never did I pay them or hire them, or it just kind of happened naturally. But it's very similar to coaching. A mentor would be similar to coaching.
Well, I think too, look, so John, he runs his own insulation business. There's people out there that run a successful, let's say, I wouldn't say mom and pop, but just, a business, a self-employed business. Is it people that are self-employed like that seeking you out, or is it more like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur with, like, I want to have my own corporation, or I want to have different pockets of things that I'm investing my money into? Because, like, John might not need somebody like you, but there's people out there that might say, hey, you know what? I want to get to the next level because I have 4 businesses or 5. Is it the person that's not the mom and pop typically that seeks you out?
Well, I mean, the mom and pop is, but it's usually, so if it's a mom and pop like that, where they're starting that kind of business, it's usually the beginning stages, right? So how do we try to, here's what we've started, but we want to bring it to the next level. A lot of people that I deal with and that I work with, and I hate, deal with, I don't like that, but work with are individuals. So even like real estate is a perfect example. A lot of real estate agents, because you could be a part of a team, but you're still independent. And then if you don't have the correct support and you don't know how to strategize or seek out like how to develop yourself and your own brand, then you're gonna stay stuck, and you're always gonna be that person's team member.
But that also applies to the entrepreneur, because you might start a business with a tremendous amount of technical knowledge about your trade, but know nothing about advertising.
Right.
And
exactly.
John, you're a lawyer as well, right?
That's no, people we didn't touch base on that. I wanted to talk about it.
So you've been a lawyer, and this is like, so why still do the insulation job?
The insulation, I enjoy building things. So I get some personal satisfaction out of the insulation. And then frankly, too, when you have a healthy economy, a booming economy, a construction company can be a cash cow. Your potential,
100%.
There is more than being a sole practitioner as an attorney.
Yeah, I think it's just really finding your niche and then also what you enjoy. So you hold a couple of hats here. So I want to say this: we got to keep moving on the show. I first off want to thank Mr. John Wickett. He's the John Wick of insulation, and
love it.
He's also the guy that's. What type of attorney work do you do, by the way?
My practice is focused mostly on litigation. I'm not a transactional attorney. That would bore me to tears. But I've done a little bit of family law. I've done some criminal defense. I've done some personal injury.
That's amazing.
My first case was an aviation case. So, that was interesting. I've got some medical malpractice.
Wow.
So a smattering of different things. Obviously, construction law.
Everybody's just got they're dipping into so many different things, man.
I mean, come on,
it's
that's
crazy.
Amazing.
So I want to end the show, guys. I also want to tell you guys real quick. So we have a lot of good information coming on Tuesday. We have a great guest. I also want to bring up that the appraisal situation, right? So we all know that with real estate agents and lending, and that's what we do. Well, at least what I do. the appraisers are now going to do automated or desktop appraisals, right? Now, this was already going on, and I want to end this because we're going to talk about more of this on Thursday. If you guys didn't know, we're going to be putting together a Thursday show for financing and money, wealth, and day trading type of thing, stocks. I wanted to do that because I think there's a lot of people that want to really kind of get those questions answered. Primarily, we've been talking about real estate. We've been talking about financing a little bit, but more of the entrepreneurs bringing people in. So for Thursday's show, that's going to be there. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the appraisal situation. Single-family residents, we were already doing this. Right, and we will have an impact, but we were already doing this through COVID, where people were not going to people's houses. Well, they passed a law recently, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that says single-family residents that they can do desktop appraisals. What that means is that they're not going to go out to the house and do a full appraisal.
What's the impact then on the market? From your perspective, what's the impact?
I think that it could maybe create more of, maybe a thought of maybe things just aren't, the values aren't what they should be. It could create that. When we had a situation where, let's say, the appraisal came in low, you can go back and challenge it, right?
So they just use the comps when they do something like that?
Yeah, they're going to see what's sold. They're going to see what's, this is the data, that what's sold. It's only going to be for single-family residents. You're still going to have appraisals go out 2 to 4 units, things like that. But that's going to have a bigger impact, I think, on people. Is it going to change the overall perspective of the housing market? It could. Right, and we'll get into that on Thursday, but I'm going to talk a lot about that situation because I think that's good information that people want to know, and they want to. Yeah,
I find it interesting because we talk about the Zillow and Open Door, all of those. We talked about those recently. So now you're going to do that primarily, but it didn't work with those companies. So is this? Well, are we going to have the same issue where they were totally off and they admit it?
Yeah. Well, listen, not every. Right? That's a flipping company. So what people don't understand is Zillow, and when they did Open Door and OfferPad and even Redfin, these are flipping companies. What they're trying to do is give you a certain percentage and flip it. Now, they're just not making the margins. It's okay in this market. But let's say this is where it's happened. If the market starts to slow down and people just aren't willing to go that far, that high above what they purchased the home for to make the profit, that's where the issues come in. Could the appraisal situation be similar to that? I don't know. We'll have to take a look at that. It could create a problem. So I'm going to talk about that more on Thursday. Guys, I'm going to end the show. If you guys have any questions, definitely leave them in the comment section. We all want to earn your business. Shannon, she's a coach. Consultant. What else are you? I don't know.
Nothing.
Oh, no, just a consultant.
Nothing. You know what, though? I mean, technically, I'm a mom. I know I'm on a podcast with this guy. I don't know.
How does somebody seek you out, though? Because people want to know, like, look, you come on the show. Yeah. I want to get people to reach out to you and say, look, Shannon, I just want to run some things by you. How does that happen?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. You can email me, Shan, S-H-A-N, Miller Consulting at Gmail. My number is 702-445-9473. Or if you're on like Instagram, you can also reach out to me that way, Shan, S-H-A-N-N. I couldn't get the A-N. Miller, LV.
Somebody stole it.
I know, I had to add a freaking N. It drove me crazy. But I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I mean, I'm everywhere. And we'll put the link, my handles and all that stuff in the comments.
Mr. John Wick, I want to say, Wicket, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
He can't help it.
I can't help it, man.
John Wick.
I love John Wick, man. It's like, I got to say John Wick, John Wicket. So thanks for coming on, man. You have any things to say? Is somebody out there that wants to seek you out? Maybe you want to seek you out for attorney work. What do you think? I mean...
Yeah, you can reach me by email, john@mylawyerlv.com, or my phone, 702-812-9471. With that phone number, you can get me for either business.
All right, guys, thank you so much. This is the most real behind-the-scenes information regarding financing, real estate, money talk, entrepreneurs. We'd love to earn your business, real estate. We can give you all the data. This is the most real, I would say the most latest information, right? And the source for financing in real estate. I'm your host, Dan French. Like the channel, subscribe, and we will see you guys at the next one. Thank you for watching the French Workbench podcast. You can find us here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. and Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. to find out all the information on real estate and financing here in Las Vegas. Also, check us out on our LV Home Professionals website. You can find your future home there, a lot of good information, and you can find